are live. So we're going to give the people a chance to join right quick. Want to get a couple of people on and ready to go. They came for something tonight, y'all. We want to bless the folk. They came because they want to hear. They want to hear what it is that we can do to help each other in our marriages, in our commitments, in our covenants. And so I've been getting a lot of people reaching out and saying, thank you. And they really are enjoying the conversations and things like that. So we're going to give them a chance to get on in here, and we'll get started in a couple of minutes. Y'all got anything y'all want to say while we waiting?
We appreciate you and inviting us to be a part of your ministry. I would say show, but it's so much deeper than the show. It's a ministry, and we appreciate being a part of it.
Thank you for agreeing to come, because sometimes people, they like, I'm not talking, I'm not,
Yeah.
Like, Carol, why you say it like that? Carol, why you say it like that?
But I really have
it's all good.
A real vague memory of I don't know if Carol remembers back in 2018. She actually was able to get us a whole house, a 4-bedroom house to ourselves for a whole week. When Kelly came there and she had the surgery, she came by the hospital and supported me and sure everything was okay with me if I needed this and needed that. At the same time, I remember a young lady that was with you. You remember her? Is she still with you guys? You remember that?
Yeah.
She is? That's good, because you brought her along and you were still ministering to me and others at the same time. So that has always stuck with me over the years, you know what I'm saying? And I told Kelly, we enjoyed the city while we were there. Had I found a job out there, we probably would still be in Dallas.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah. Ooh, that was a long time ago. Well,
yes, 2018.
2018. Yeah.
18. Yeah, because that's when you had the surgery. Yeah, it was like right before Christmas. We had to stay out there a whole week after the surgery.
That's right.
Yeah. So who was the sister's house that you were able to get us? And she went to Mexico or something like that on her vacation.
Yeah, it was another sister at the church with the same. Yeah.
You know what's crazy is, we put the address when we first got there to go to her house. And when we pulled up, we thought we were still in Florida, because you know why? Her numeric number was the exact same numeric number at our house in Florida.
Wow.
So we noticed it wasn't coincidence. And I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God know what he's doing. He knows.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get started, because we know we got something going on tonight that we all trying to get to and watch. Our country is, so come on, let's get going. Let's get started. I just want to thank you all again for allowing us into your homes, allowing us some time to share some wisdom and some insight on this marriage thing that we got going on. And so just want to do a real quick icebreaker right quick before we get going. Y'all play a little game right quick. Just real quick game. When
Let's go, Kelly. Let's go.
Come on, Carol. We got to break the ice.
Fight the creative one. Let's go.
All right. My favorite one. So what I need y'all to do is just point to whoever this may apply to, right? Really quick. Don't think long. You'll be wrong if you think long, okay? All right. So it's called most likely to. Who's most likely to take a long time to get dressed? Who's most likely to
I'm a girl.
Who's most likely to spill some food on their shirt?
Definitely.
Who's most likely to? Carol, wait, let's break to this. Y'all have 3 girls, right? Jayla, Jordan, Janice.
Janice, yeah.
Who is more like you, Carol? Jayla would be more like who?
Her daddy.
Jayla is more like her dad. Is Jayla the oldest?
Yeah.
Jayla is the oldest. I see that. I see that. Okay, and
Mhm.
what about Jordan?
Me all day long.
That's crazy.
All day
So
long.
will we say Janice is the both of y'all?
Yeah.
That's right.
That is
Wow.
wow. Wow. And then so y'all got a new grandson in here, right? In the mix, right?
Yes.
Wow.
That's
So
what he do. I get excited when I think about him.
you get excited. Let's ask this final question, then let's go ahead on and get into it.
Okay.
Who's most likely to be the grandson's favorite grandparent?
I I think he's gonna love both of us, but in
Oh, come on.
different ways. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's
Come
gonna
on.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right
I
now.
love that.
Right now. It's
Right now,
hmm
Carol is y'all both spoiling them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He smiled at her long before he smiled at me. He's
I
hard. He's
love that.
hard to get to smile. That's what's for certain. You got to
We met
really.
him at T-Wake. He is so handsome and he looks so good. And I'm just so happy for y'all. I'm thankful that y'all got a new addition to the family and it's a male at that.
Yes.
Brother J.K., what was that like growing up with a house full of women?
It was adventurous. It was dangerous. It was. It was heartwarming. Um, but I prayed 3 times for a son,
Wow.
and God said no.
Mhm.
Stop asking. I was about to name them. No, and stop asking Hamilton. But
Yeah.
it was God's plan for the son to come a generation later. So I'm grateful about that. I'm really geeked about that. I
Yeah.
really am.
It's a blessing.
He is a big ball of joy. And we all know that Carol, you told the story that as your grandson was being born, your father was passing. This happened the same day. Is that correct?
It didn't happen the same day. My father was passing away, and my daughter was in labor at the same time. Our daughter was in labor at the same time at the same hospital. So my dad was on the 7th floor. My grandbaby was on the 1st floor.
Wow.
All of it was happening.
That
But
that that is absolutely. And I just want to start with that right quick because we have like death in the family that has been happening a lot for the both of us. And just want to ask the question because as you know, losing my mom and then my dad, my grandmother, and then my dad, and then my oldest brother, my next to the oldest brother, and all in between that, we got, Adrian and Ronette, Gerald and Steve, and all these people that we both share and we both know a lot of losses. And what I would find myself doing, that scripture, weeping endures for a night. Like I would be okay during the day, but then at night when it was time to go to bed, I would find myself like waking up in the middle of my sleep and like weep, right? But
mhm.
trying to be quiet about it because I didn't want to. I didn't know how Fred was going to handle my grieving, right? And so I wasn't sure if he was going to. We talked about expectations and things like that. Would he hold me like I wanted to be? Like I just was quiet. I don't know why I was trying to weep without. It seemed like not that I would be disturbing him, but just I didn't know if he was able to handle what I was going through, right? And so just you could just speak from, you've had, many losses recently as well too, Carol. What was that like for, either you, JK, can speak on this, or you, Carol? How does one help the spouse or just help that young lady or that young man that may be saying if they didn't grab hold or they didn't do the things that we're expecting, for that person to not believe those lies that the devil may say, well, they didn't do this, they must not care, or something like that. Can you help us with anything you can speak on that, or what may have helped y'all during y'all's grieving process?
Being sick was new. Like, I've never been sick. I've never had so much as a stitch until that moment in my life. So being the one being sick, as a man, it put me in a weird place, put me in a dark place for a little while, a very depressed place. Always being the one to take care of the household, and now roles kind of shifting around to where I had to lean on Carol. It was just a new space, and when you're navigating a new space, it's hard to know what to expect. You just know how you feel. And so what I needed and what I expected got lost, because this was, I was a freshman and being sick, and I've never been sick to that degree. And so while I was dealing with being the sick one, she was dealing with being the caretaker. And based on discussions we've had, those are two different perceptions of the same event, and two different aspects of one crisis. And so I was concerned about what the future looked like for me. And she had a whole nother different set of concerns. Being hospitalized, I wasn't able to even witness that side, because I was in the process of being, convalescing and trying to get better.
Yeah. For me, and I know you asked the question about losing people and how does that look with a couple, and how do you react to one another? In the case of his sickness, it kind of threw me in a kind of a whirlwind a little bit. Why? Because I was a stay-at-home mom with our children. I stayed at home until I stayed at home, and I'm still at home. But I stayed at home with our girls, right? And so it put me in another space, because I didn't have a job, right? I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know. Right. I didn't know if JK was going to make it out of it, or what I needed to do. I didn't really have, much. I didn't have a career. So it threw me into a scary place, but also a place of just leaning on God and learning to trust God even in that space. But it was very, very scary when the sole provider of your house goes down and you have nothing to fall back on. What do you do, right? And we got 3 small little children at home, and I am the one that's having to answer all the questions, right? So it was a very trying time for us. One, because most people tend to think that those things are going to happen when you get elderly, right?
Right.
And not when you in your 30s. Not
Right.
when you in your 30s, and you ain't expecting for anything like that to occur, something so life-changing. And so we were not thinking like that. And then when it happened, it shifted a whole lot of things. It shifted what was most important. It diminished. It made things that were not important, that we made important, very, very small. It just shifted everything. Everything was put into perspective that needed to be put into perspective for us at the time.
Those some 12 years ago, in retrospect, we were at a not so good place in our marriage. It wasn't just horrific. It was just kind of
life.
It was just kind of dull. It was we were in a place of kind of just living, just going through the mechanics of being married. We had frustrations with each other, and we were on automatic pilot. And so that event, you know, in hindsight, gave us a new perspective of each other, gave us a new perspective of ourselves, gave us a new perspective of God. And there was another version of us that emerged from the cocoon of this sickness. In a way, God used sickness to heal us. And it was like a reset button. All priorities got shifted, all the little idiosyncrasies and irritants got pushed to the back burner, and it became about, hey, what, you know, are we gonna, is this it? You know, what's life gonna look like? Not that the frustrations went away, but they existed with a different context. You know, it was no longer frustration with each other, it was frustration with the situation. So God changed the target of frustration.
That is good. You talk about that in your book, how that's the paradox, like sickness actually healing, right? The situation. And so, like you just said, it brought you together even more and helped you to see what was more important at the time. Because again, that's we say those vows, we stand there and we say, and we're looking at each other, and the preacher's there and everybody's there, and we're like, in sickness and in health, and we looking at each other's eyes, and we, you know, in sickness and in health, and we're saying this stuff on that day, on that special day. Like Carol, like you just said, we normally think that's going to come down the line, but y'all are fairly young.
Yep.
And had young kids. So man of God, let me ask you this. Was there a fear of, did you think you weren't going to make it?
So interestingly enough, that didn't come across my mind because I was in the mode of, it wasn't, how can I say this? When I was showed the pictures of how I was, that's when all of that came down. Like I almost left here, because when you're the one sick, when you're the one with the IVs and the doctors around you, and you're in the bed, and you're the one that looks really bad, and nobody's going to say you look terrible. You don't see yourself, and thank God they don't have mirrors in hospital ceilings, because that would have, that would have been traumatic. But I saw the pictures, I was told the stories, I was told, and Carol shared with me all the things that happened in my state of barely being conscious and in and out of being septic. And
he's a terrible patient.
I am.
Terrible.
I already knew that, though. I knew that before that happened. It was a lot. It was a lot, but it was God had another intent for us. And he had to get some other stuff out of us. As JK said, we were in another space in our relationship. And so that sickness took that stuff away.
Yes.
And it made us realize what was most important. And it wasn't that stuff. Not that stuff that need to be dealt with. It's not that we put it up under the carpet and said we ain't gonna deal with that. It's just that at the end of the day, some of the stuff that people, the low tolerance that people have for each other in their marriages, is the world says get rid of them. They throw their socks on the ground, get rid of them. I mean, anything. If the wind blow too hard, get rid of them, right? But life can't be like that. And so God shifted those things.
It was like you can't be talking to me like that. You're not gonna be talking about it. Man, when you get sick, oh my goodness.
That stuff don't matter. That stuff do not matter.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
It shows how minuscule those things are.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just puts the reality of everything in more perspective, you know what I'm saying? Just like you guys say that it was a time in your marriage when things weren't going so good, but because of the sickness or what have you. It's amazing how God allows you to go through a season for a reason. I mean,
oh yeah,
you guys didn't know that, you know what I'm saying, things would work out for the better because you were concentrating on his health, you know, him, you know, getting back on his feet, him taking care of his wife, him taking care of his family or whatever. So, I mean, that's a blow to a man. And I can relate to that because I was on a job, make a long story, for 20 years. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call saying your services here are no longer needed. You know, go get your service package from HR. And so I had to come home and tell, you know, my wife that, you know what I'm saying? And so, and it wasn't on their level, you know, as far as your health is concerned, because, you know what I'm saying, you can get another job and things of that nature, whatever, but God allows you to go through those things. And my point is, God allowed that to happen because I was dedicated to that job for 21 years. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And now here it is. Okay, I'm at the house looking for a job and I get a phone call with some people offering me a job. I don't know these people from Adam. And so long story short, that's how we end up here in North Carolina, what have you. But I mean, there was a period of time. Okay, is she gonna still be with me because I don't have a job? I'm not bringing in no money, this, that, and the other. So that's hurtful for a man to be down and not being able to provide. You know, man, like, you got a church, you know what I'm saying, that relies on you, that depends on you. But at the same time, you're a man at the end of the day.
That's right. I'm a man at the beginning of the day too.
Absolutely.
The end of the day shows you how much of a man you are. You know, it's inexplicable. Then I went through this phase, at least I did, where I had to wonder what I meant to the family, right? And on the positive, I meant security. And on the negative, I meant security. That one idea, there were two sides to the coin of that idea. On the one end, as a man, I've got to be the security for this family.
Absolutely.
On the other side, as a man, do I only represent security?
Right, right.
So there was that inner struggle.
Yeah,
that's me personally. And yet Carol was going through a whole
I was just the help.
Myriad of other things.
Right.
I was just the help. On this side, I'm the help. On that side.
Yeah.
It's for real.
It's like
and you start to feel like, what do you have to contribute? I'm helping right here and I'm helping right here, but I have nothing necessarily tangible to contribute to what's happening at this moment. And it was just a roller coaster ride. But God, we made it through it.
But God, yeah.
But God.
And both of those things could help in making the marriage seem like it's something just because you're feeling inadequate, probably, you know what I'm saying? And it could make for something that is not even really a thing, but because you're feeling the kind of way, it becomes a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But both of them were necessary.
Yes.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
We were both necessary. Yeah.
JK, this book, Can I Get a Little Help? I'm Married. I'm Single. JK Hamilton. Now, you wrote this book how long ago?
That had to be around 15, 16, 20. No, was it? Was it before or after?
This book, you have covered everything from top to bottom. And of course, in here, chapter 9 is communication. And so that's important, right? Everybody talks about communication in the marriage. When did you and Carol gel with the communication part of this thing?
So unlike some other writers, they write when they're past the thing they're talking about. When they're talking about it in hindsight. It was like a journal for me. It's like
a moment.
journal. So it was OJT. It was on the job training, and so which helped me understand that nobody gets there. Like nobody gets there. You just, you never stop having papers due. You never stop taking tests. You're just in the 10th grade now doing the same stuff that you did in the 9th grade, but you're doing it on another level.
On another level.
You're just a freshman in college. It's the same thing on different levels. So our journey with communication, and I want it to be holistic in the approach and not just talk on one side.
Yeah.
And so our communication was still being pruned and primed and prepped from the moment we said I do, but now there were more serious, life becomes more serious. So when the communication is good, it's really good. Right. And when the communication is bad, it's really bad, right. Because of the level of seriousness that life takes.
Right.
So, and I don't know if that answered the question. What exactly was the question?
You said it. We never really get there. Like even transformation will continue to be transforming into who God intends for us to be. So you never really get there. So I just asked, when did y'all get it like that? Okay, there's a communication breakdown here or something. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, you never really get there. It's just going to be you get over this hurdle, and then it's going to be something else, and then it's going to be something else. But just that initial understanding that she thinks like females think like we think, males think like they think, and just connecting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Make sense of it all, because you're not going to understand us. We're not going to understand y'all, period. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll understand that we don't understand, and we're ever evolving. That's why nobody gets there,
right?
Because right. I'm not the 2 year ago rendition of who I was. She's not the 3 year ago version of who she is, and so just when you think you got it, there's another evolution in the individual,
right?
And you always have to learn. It's amazing that no textbook from 10 years ago works 10 years later. Like you could have got a degree in counseling 10 years ago,
right? But
those textbooks will fall short from 10 years ago because of the developments and the evolution of the helping professions. And
right.
and so you just have to, accepting that was the hardest part, because we want to hold people accountable to who they were 5 years ago, and we want to communicate in that way. But no, it's different levels, different ways it evolves. And interestingly enough, we evolve, right? And we don't even pray the way we did.
Yeah.
I don't pray. No, as individuals, we don't pray, because the more you learn God is the more your prayer life evolves. So our communication with God is not the same. Now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep, evolves to, Lord, it's been a rough day, and Lord, just thank you. It's a whole evolution.
Absolutely.
And you spoke about prayer. So in chapter 5, right, you got unrealistic and unmet expectations. right?
Right.
Enough couples. When I was reading this, I realized I don't think I ever prayed about. I don't think I ever brought the Lord into the bedroom, right? I, it was so eye-opening to hear you say, you know, this is a very practical subject, but not many couples pray about their marital sexuality. That is so true, right? And that can be a problem because, like you said in the book, there are sexual expectations
Yeah.
that people bring from other things. So let's dive into that. I got my pillow today on for this. I want to talk about where, like, I always like to ask, who taught you what you know about blah, 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 right? What is the breakdown stem from in the bedroom in some couples' lives? Help us with that.
Um, hey, it can stem from a lot of stuff, past experiences, family origin, lots of things. What your belief system about sex, how it came to you. Sex, some people were taught sex is nasty. Some people were taught that sex is beautiful. It just depends on how it came to you, what your belief system is. A lot of people's belief system about sex is shaped from their experiences. Some women don't want to be touched because maybe they were abused growing up, and so sex is not something that's beautiful to them. So when a man approaches them, they feel a certain kind of way. Sometimes men, as you know, if you read in JK's book, sometimes people have a expectation that sex should be like the pornography you used to watch when you were a kid, or you still watch now.
Yep. No,
That's real talk.
Yeah.
That's real talk because
it's time to get real.
That's real talk. Because I'm not, people will do that and try to make you candy coated candy in the bedroom. Yeah. Seen on XX whatever channel. And I ain't candy. I'm not candy coated candy, and I can't. My legs don't do what candy coated candy does. I'm old now. But I'm just saying, and I'm being funny, but I am saying that people, they get their ideas from different things, and how they look at sex and marriage. Sex and marriage derives from a whole thing, and so it just depends on where you're coming from.
Right, and those experiences. So the premise is expectation is influenced by experience.
Right.
Experiences, and this may not even be in the book, come through engagement or exposure.
Right.
That's it. Engagement or exposure.
Right.
Well, I did put, there were some things that I was exposed to. Pornography I was exposed to at a young age. And, those experiences come through exposure or engagement. And eventually, I wasn't a virgin. Neither of us were virgins when we got married. That thing is going away. The virgin is going away. Here's the thing. The good part about broadcast and subjects like this, and I say this all the time at home, is people watching get to listen and take what they need and what is relevant to them without no one else knowing that that's the part of this Zoom that they're taking.
Right.
And somebody has to be straightforward with it. So we bring every part of who we are into every part of our marriage. And not only that, if you've had previous engagements, that doesn't go away, and they influence your expectation. But at the end of the day, she didn't marry her last boyfriend before me, or last 2 boyfriends before me. I didn't marry my last, my first sexual experience, but that doesn't go away. And not only that, the exposure comes from the world we live in.
Right.
Right.
Even more so now.
So yeah, even more so.
Absolutely.
And people will struggle with that. And because the church has, many times the church makes it a hush thing, there's more information coming from the world around us, uncensored, and the narrative spun the way the world spins it.
Right.
And meanwhile, it becomes something we don't want to talk about. There are a myriad of people who have had exposures and engagements before marriage. And some of those were ugly.
Right.
And some of those were life-changing. And some of those, many of those they didn't ask for. They just walked in and somebody in the family was watching a movie. They just, they went somewhere and found a magazine. They, television shows were not screened by parents. And of course, television has contributed to raising a generation.
Absolutely.
And all of these things are creating these experiences,
right,
which are creating expectations. The purest sexual love that ever existed in the history of the world was Adam and Eve, because there were no frame of references before each other.
right.
None seen, none exposed, none watched on television. Adam and Eve were each other's not only first, but they were each other's only exposure. It was like children.
And they were no shame.
Now,
no shame.
No shame. But that being said, it doesn't mean the expectations don't go away.
Right.
Right.
And some of them are unfair, and some of them are unmet, right? How deep y'all want to go with this?
Come on,
dive, swim. You're out there now. Swim. Make it swim.
So there's some people who marry what used to be, or who used to be, a freak. They find Jesus, right? And maybe the wife or the husband wants a part of that freakiness. Yeah. But because that was a part of their life, they're now grateful to be delivered from. They don't bring that. And that might be expected, right? That might be expected. And Carol tapped me, but she knows I can get uncensored. But at the end of the day, that still remains an expectation. So the Bible gives the remedy. There has to be a realization that your body is not your body, and her body is not her body, and God really neutralized it, because no one can use that without the comeback of your body is not your body. And if you want certain expectations met on the premise of God says your body is not your body, so you need to, I have these expectations, come on with it. It's, in the bedroom, it's not what it's supposed to be. It's neutralized by your body is not your body. So if your body belongs to me, I command your body to calm down.
Yeah.
If your body belongs to me, I command your body to heat up. And it becomes, now the unmet sexpectation is the sexpectation that deprives the person and ignores what they like, because the goal is to please one another. But what happens when pleasing you makes me feel awkward? Or makes, maybe you marry somebody who's green. And unfortunately, a lot of marriages are suffering because of this, and they can be made better if we understand that it's okay to talk about these things.
Mm.
It's okay. The Bible talks about these things, you know. Let the husband give unto the wife, and the wife unto the husband do benevolence. And it says so that you won't be, so that you won't be tempted. So at the end of the day, and I'm kind of went off, but it's important. There are people watching this right now and who will watch it, who will privately benefit from it, because that's the most closed part of kingdom relationships, right? Of our fellowship. We don't talk about, we'll talk about communication. We'll talk about the, money, finances.
I was going to say, we'll talk about giving, but we don't talk about how to make the money,
Right. So, but when it comes to that, it becomes complicated. And it becomes complicated because of people's past, because of people's exposures, because of people's experiences and engagements. And to talk about it has become taboo in the church. And this is the sad part is the world is talking plainly about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the church is doing this.
That's right.
And so teenagers and young adults are getting that information from non-kingdom sources.
That's right.
So I'm going to press pause because I know there might be some other questions you may have something else to say.
Carrie, so let me get to this. She shut down. She gone. So like you said, that woman that may have been a certain way prior to Christ, like the freakiness or whatever it is considered as, once that's been exposed and then you snatch that back and away, there definitely has to be some communication as to what happened, why you don't such and such and such no more, such and such no more, right? And so if it's not some kind of dialogue, the male or the spouse, somebody's going to start feeling deprived, right? Or not wanted, right? Something has changed. Excuse me. So there's definitely got to be, how do you work around, and you're probably going to say pray about it, right? But you have been exposed to something, and then all of a sudden we don't do that anymore. Like, how do you get around that or past that? Or like, you can't just wipe that out, right? Like you said earlier. So
do you want to say?
Well, I can say it has to be. I think you have to talk about it, and I think it's very important that each person expresses that. But it's only going to happen through honest communication, because the thing is, it may not be that a person was so sexually liberal, right, prior to being married, and then they're getting the marriage, and then they're no longer sexually liberal. That probably, I'm making that up as I go along, that term. But anyway, free, right? It could be that your spouse gets sick and cannot perform. Right. What happens when they cannot perform?
Right.
Those are things that you have to talk about, and you have to be brutally honest in a relationship and talk about, this makes me feel this way. Because it's not just going to be they withdraw because now they don't want to be like that anymore. They may have to withdraw by default because they cannot perform anymore. Right. So what happens when your spouse can no longer perform? What do you do?
Right.
How do you address those situations? You address it by talking to one another and figuring out how both of you can work through that together. Mm-hmm. And it's not gonna look the same for everybody. Mm-hmm. Right? What may work for me and JK may not work for another couple, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you got to talk about it. You got to talk about it. And then when you talk about it, whatever you work out needs to be according to the will of God. Like, you can never go out the will of God in your marriage. And a lot of people subscribe to that. That is not of God. That is not of God. I mean, it's not of God, but it's something that you need to talk about and figure out how the two of you can make this thing work.
Right.
And you can make it work.
And there's a greater thrill to doing something you're not supposed to do.
Right.
Than there is to doing something you're free to do.
Right.
And so there are things that can, if we're going to be real about it, there are things that people enjoyed in fornication that becomes dull when you are allowed and to actually do it, where there is no prohibition. There's a thrill to doing what you're not. The forbidden is always more alluring than the freedom. And so now, in hindsight, many couples, if they were honest, would have to admit we understand why God said for every, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, every woman her own husband, even within a couple. Back when you were younger, there are couples that have sex before marriage and end up married. And even in those cases, it's always more thrilling when you're sneaking. There's a term now that that's often used called sneaky link, because quite naturally, the forbidden, since the beginning of time, the tree that was forbidden
was the most appealing.
It's like, wow, because Satan is the master of making the forbidden look good. And so what happens is life, you grow up, you mature, and the thrill of forbidden sex is no longer there. Why? Because it's no longer forbidden. And some people can become thrill seekers and thrill chasers in an inappropriate way. So, I mean, there's sickness, but here's the base of it all. And the base of that chapter was they still are expectations. Expectations. The Bible uses to please, right? Husbands are there to render due benevolence, to please sexually, and wives are there to please. If sickness doesn't prohibit it, if trauma doesn't prohibit it, God says, please one another.
Please, right.
Please one another. And so there has to be communication, right? So there's this thing where if a husband or a wife communicates, there's this yuck factor. So if you want to kill communication about it quickly, demonize a person's expectation. What you do is you now give way for the devil, right? Because if her expectation or sexpectation has been demonized, yuck, you're a freak. Oh, you need to. So now that person, once that sexpectation doesn't go away, it goes inside.
That's right. That's right.
And you place that person in a dark place, in a closed room with a demon, because what God said is freely permitted has been now demonized. And so the expectation doesn't go away. So what happens is it creates a vulnerability.
Yeah.
And when that vulnerability is created, it becomes that relationship becomes high risk for unfaithfulness, and unfaithfulness is not always going out. Unfaithfulness is replacing a warm body with a toy that now becomes the new husband or the new wife,
Yeah,
or
the go-to.
pornography that now becomes. See, I think the world says this is fine. All of these things are fine,
Right.
but they are the result many times of sexual incongruency and incompatibility. So it doesn't mean that I have more experience and you have more. No, it means now in this covenant that God blesses, you communicate that and you realize and you love each other to where it's not all about me and it's not, all about you. It's about one another. But selfishness gets in there, and when that happens, it can spiral to a lot of things. But the reality is, those expectations sexually should be shared. And when another problem is, people assume your spouse should know. You should own that, or I shouldn't have to tell you this. I shouldn't have to tell you. And it's not just sexual, it's intimacy, right? I shouldn't have to tell you to hold my hand. Why I got to tell you that? Why I got to tell you to warm the oven up before you put put
the
your
bread in.
bread in there. All right, because remember, we evolve. People evolve. And it's very possible for something you used to love and you used to desire to not even want that anymore.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
And it goes back to the very first show when we talked about the soulmate, marrying somebody necessary for your assignment, right? And so, like Carol or one of you said, like if you're sick and you can't, right? And so it brought me back when I Carol said that, like, if you just can't do it, now what, right? So when I first lost my hair, and I was just, like devastated, and Fred had to say, I didn't marry you for your hair. You know what I'm saying? That's where the substance holds more than this physical thing that we're looking at with each other. And so, like Carol said, you're doing the will of God. So even when you have those moments of feeling like you don't feel lovely or wanted or desired anymore, and then you fall into a trap of, now you're not looking at your husband, but you're watching porn or things like that. If it's not, I don't know if that's in the will of God, because here comes again some more. You're watching porn and they doing some stuff on there. Like, what's that character you said? Candy Food, Carol? They doing some stuff on there.
I made her up.
Oh, you made her up.
Yeah.
I
made her
you
up.
Made her up.
Yeah.
But that becomes like the idol now. And now you're not focused on your spouse, because you coming home and you waiting for the spouse to leave so you could put, be in your corner and satisfying yourself. But again, is that the will of God there, right? So those are things to consider. And the whole my body is, we belong to each other. I don't think we really understand what that really, really means, because culture has it now where it's me, my, I, right?
Right.
And some of us are getting caught up and sucked into, I got to do what's best for me. Right. You don't even know what's best for you. Right.
Yeah.
Only God knows. And it just circles me right back around to that soulmate. Who marrying somebody for the assignment, not for the sex, not for the hair, not for the physical stuff, the substance behind why God's original intent. Why did we get married? Sex is just extra.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are couples out there that cannot have sex, right? But they are very fulfilled by one another. They are very fulfilled because their foundation is not based on sex. Their foundation is based on love, is based on friendship, is based on the fact that they know how to talk to one another, is based on all of those things. So they can fulfill one another. And a lot of couples do fulfill one another just by that. Because sex is actually in a marriage is kind of like the end result, right? It's something natural that God gave us, but our wanting to do it a lot of times is based, I mean, that sounded really crazy, but it's based on how we feel about one another, right? Sometimes it is physical. I mean, you got to be honest. Sometimes it is just a physical need that we have and that we desire. But a lot of that is based on us being, I think you said it before, intimacy means into me you see, right? You into me, and it leads and bleeds over into that. And so some of that is based is a lot. Our marriages, right, should not be based on sex, right? If you just married them because for that, then that's not a good reason. That's not the right reason. But we just have to know what our intent is and why we did what we did, and why we chose who we chose, and who God put us with, and all of that. We have to know what it is, and it has to be of substance. It can't be because of looks. I mean, it just can't be because of a lot of carnal things that people marry.
But I want to say, but I think that's an evolution.
What do you mean?
So we're in our ease. I'm not going to say the age, but we're older. Okay. Maybe there are people who were our age when we got. See, that's another thing.
Right.
We can't forget. When you mature, you see your perspective changes. And sometimes you can lose touch with the younger version of yourself.
Right.
The version, the dating version, the 20-year-old version.
Yeah.
And I don't want to forget about that group, 20, 30-year-old, where sex is a big deal for a lot of them. Not for all of them, but that is a big deal, especially in the times we live in, because it's everywhere. It's in music. It's on commercials. It's television. The ratings of television have changed where PG-13 is what is dark like. So we're in a sex crazed society. Am I saying be victims of it? No. We still have to be sanctified. We still have to walk holy, but we also still need to be honest. And we need to be honest about the generation coming behind us. And they are struggling with this, and we can't throw at them the right now evolution that we have.
Right.
We need to connect them with the 20-something-year-old version of us where it was very important.
Right.
Otherwise, we don't sound real to them.
Right.
We don't sound real to them, and they're gonna close up, and they're gonna check out. Here is the reality. God made us with this desire.
Right.
It's intrinsic in who we are. That was God's design. It was his design for a context. Right. Sometimes, I remember back in the day, years ago, we could be angry at each other and yet get together in the bedroom, and all of it just goes away. It's just like, look, what are you angry about? We finished doing the do, and like, what you want to do? What you want to eat? Like, the argument is gone. like
Oh,
what happened? It's gone.
Glory
right?
to God.
You get older, and
Yeah.
That don't work no
you
more.
get older, and the argument stops the deed.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
It's the other
Absolutely.
way around.
So I just want to be real with people, and as people watch this, if you're older, if you're 50 and 60 years old, remember it wasn't always like that,
Right.
and that
Correct.
was a priority.
It was a priority.
Right.
It wasn't the priority, but it was a priority. As a matter of fact, you talked about the honeymoon, as you talked about getting married, oh, we're going to do this. And sometimes you were doing the do before the honeymoon. And
Right.
it was all like, all night, the music, all night. And now what used to, you used to be able to do all night takes all night to do. But you didn't start out that way.
True.
That's
You
true.
didn't start
You're
out
right.
that way.
You're right. We are, you didn't ask us and y'all didn't ask us, but we are 28 years into our marriage. And so we have evolved a lot. And, in the beginning, that was really important to us. It was very important to us. And then kids happen, right?
Mm.
Evolving again, kids,
Mm.
and then sickness crept in,
Oh.
you got, you start taking medications and all of this stuff and all of that. It changes your perspective on a whole lot, right? And then your kids get grown and they move out, and you hear people say, "Oh yeah, our kid's gone. It's gonna be on now." And then you be looking at each other like, "I'm just too tired. I'm too pooped to."
I'm beginning to feel like people, that's something you're supposed to say.
What? Yeah, it is.
Like when all the kids are gone now.
Yeah, and we have now. It's just not it's not the picture that people portray it to be, because it changes. And what excites us about each other is not just that. It's,
Right.
Right.
It's bigger than that now. But
Right.
You're absolutely right, Jamel. You're absolutely right that it looks different when you're in your 20s and when you're in your 30s.
Right.
It really looks different. But it's you're gonna forever evolve in this thing called marriage, right? You're gonna forever evolve until you can't evolve no more, right? You're gonna forever evolve and evolve. Don't correct me out there. I know how I said it. Don't put it in the chat. I know I said it wrong. But you're gonna evolve in your marriages, and you're gonna evolve in your marriages, in your mindset, in your body. Everything changes.
Right.
That's very important for people to understand that your body doesn't even respond the same way that it used to respond.
Right.
All those things come into play in your relationship, and when you've been with somebody for any significant amount of time, things will begin to look different, and it's okay that they look different. I think J.K. said something in his book about how you have to create your own marital DNA. That means what, right? Your marital DNA. What does your marriage look like? You got to figure out what works for y'all in your marriage, in every aspect of your marriage, whether it's communication, whether it's sexuality,
approach.
right? Your direction, your nature, and your approach in your marriage.
Yeah,
You got to figure out what that looks like for you. People are trying to build their marriages and build their sex lives on these things that people show them,
Right.
on social media and on the internet and all that kind of stuff. And and a lot of that is not reality. It is not real. So you have to figure out what works for Kelly and Fred ain't gonna work for Carol and JK. We different.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I'm not finna try to, I heard that Kelly and Fred, they do it every time they see a squirrel. Ain't nobody got time for that. Okay? Nobody got time for that. We do what Carol and JK do, how we do it, and we are good with each other. We good. We good. But trying to compare what we have to somebody else and make what we have fit another person's mold is not gonna work. So you gotta figure out what works for y'all, what works for you. Not what.
And this book I wrote in the 30s.
Yeah.
So
Oh wow.
So you see, it's you know, perspective. Now, I do want to say a word about those experiences, because this is the real talk of it. And you know, church, sometimes we become too sterile to really go into this depth of realness.
Right.
I said we bring every part of us into this marriage, and some of those parts influence our desires and expectations sexually, and some of them hinder it. I think we need to talk more about abuse in childhood. I think we need to talk more about exposure to things in childhood that affect people in their adult years. The enemy is smart.
Right.
The enemy is clever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get exposed to an experience or an engagement as a kid. The devil leaves some people alone till later.
Mhm.
Then they get married, and the seed has already been planted as a kid.
Mm.
And this is not, you know, we can't just demonize it and say that behavior is the devil. Sometimes we need to unpack it and see where it comes from. And
Right.
people wonder why is this man, you know, stepping out?
Yeah.
Why is this woman
Sleeping with everybody.
right?
They're
Yeah.
looking for something.
Or why is this woman up in this person's face and always after other people's attention?
Right.
The reality is it didn't happen during the period of corruption. It happened during the period of innocence.
Right.
Mm.
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 Adam and Eve were corrupted during the period of innocence.
Mm.
And what the devil does is he sets the trajectory of what you want by something you don't necessarily want
now.
when you're exposed.
That's
to.
right. That's right. That's right.
Jake, repeat
Pardon?
it again. You broke up. You said what the devil does. Say that again for me, please.
He sets the trajectory of something that you will want later during a time where you may not even want it at that moment. Like most people didn't ask to be touched in places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, most people didn't ask to walk in or be handed this nudie magazine or to be exposed to this. There are a myriad of things that happen in innocence.
Right.
Innocence. And of course, when it becomes a desire later, we forget that the devil will go away and come back. Like in the story of the house that was swept and clean and clear, and the devil, evil spirit was cast out and went looking for life, and dry places looking for life, findeth none. He comes back and sees that person swept, garnished, and clear, and says, before he goes, he says, I will go back to my house,
right,
from whence I came. That swept, garnished, and clear. The greatest example of being swept, garnished, and clear is childhood.
Mm.
Children say, when you say things and don't meet this innocence. And so he plants the seed in innocence so that it has a trajectory for when you have knowledge, when it's not purity, it's now been corrupted, you say, I do.
right,
But at the altar saying I do is a woman that may have been touched and may have gotten wild because she's sexually misplaced. There's a man standing there that's been exposed to sexuality
or touched
and has these cravings. You say I do, and the world, the very world we live in, paints this euphoric, perfect picture of marriage.
happily ever after.
So everybody's trying to fit into this cup that the world said marriage is. And when it doesn't fit there, the world that fed you the corruption turns around and condemns you for it. And unfortunately, the church does. And we're better about saying what's wrong than saying how to make it right.
Right.
How to make it right.
Come on, JK.
Yeah.
So shame exists, and marriage, these kinds of talks happen in private,
Right.
but they don't happen as publicly as the corruption happens.
Right.
Correct. Correct.
So I want to say kudos to both of you for having this,
Right.
because there are people who are watching that need this desperately and need to know they're not the only ones.
Right. Right. And maybe if we had these talks when we were coming up. I mean, I don't even recall it being said when I was coming up in the church, right, that sex was even a beautiful thing.
Right.
No, not at all.
I knew sex was for marriage, right? I knew, you don't do it until you get married, right?
Right.
But
Supposed to not.
what does doing it look like? Is doing it beautiful? What is this gonna do to me when I do it? Am I just doing this to procreate? What am I doing for? Sex is a beautiful thing between a man and a woman, between husband and wife, right? Between a husband and wife. It's a beautiful thing, and God created it. God created it. Man didn't create, God created it. God made us this way, and it's a beautiful thing. And we have to share it with our children, share it with our youth, that this is a beautiful thing. But yeah, it's beautiful, but it needs to be done in this context, as JK said. It needs to be done as the Bible said. Yeah, what JK said. The Bible said it needs to be done in marriage, right? Now we do know that we are in a world that doesn't subscribe to that, right? You just be free, you do what you want to do when you get ready to do it. But that's not what God said. Yeah, we didn't do the right thing. We didn't, when we got together, we were not pure. But that's not how God said it. It doesn't make it right because we did. That's not how God said it. And when you do it the way God said it, that is the correct way. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And we can't go back and change it, but we can share. We share with our children. Did they do it the right way?
That's good.
No, they didn't do it the right way. But we shared it with them. They know.
Right.
They know, right? And so we have to be very, very honest about the subjects like this when it comes to sex and what God designed it to look like and how it should look, as well as what God did not design it to be. Because some people are really confused on what sex should look like.
Right.
It's not you ain't finna pull my hair and make me come in the bed. You're not finna do that. First of all, it ain't. It's 100% human. It's not, but don't pull my hair. Don't do that. But you're not going to do that. You're not going to abuse me in it, right? It should be a mutual thing. It should be a mutual thing, one that makes us come together, one that makes us love one another and have respect for one another and the gentleness of it and all of that. All of that. All of that plays a part, but we got to talk about this stuff.
We do. And I'm learning, and you all pray for me, because the older I get, I'm learning to know who I'm preaching to. We get up and say, God wanted marriage before sex, not the other way around. But you're also preaching to somebody that had sex before adolescence.
Right.
Like somebody who took it.
Right.
That's right.
So you're saying, sex is supposed to be after marriage first, fornication. And so they're sitting there and they're closed because uncle or auntie or neighbor across the street babysat.
Right.
Took it from me before I knew what it was. So did that make me a fornicator at 9 years old? So I mean, it is so complicated, and it goes into the marriage and it alters our expectations.
Right. And I just want to say this too. We do have to do better with telling our kids about it. Y'all cannot tell them if you don't want to tell them. The world
That's
is
right.
telling.
Yeah, somebody else gonna tell them. Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I was playing a song one day and I'm jamming to it. And I'm thinking the song is Maxine Waters comes on and she's reclaiming my time. I'm like, this is so inspirational. My daughter said, do you know what that song means? The song is called Tragic, right? The song
Called
is
what?
Tragic.
Okay.
See, tragic. The song, and I'm jamming it in my car. I got it loud in my car because if you think it, I'm having a good time with the song. The song is talking about a man who doesn't perform well in the bedroom.
Mm.
We think we're doing something by not being honest with our children and saying and telling them about you. You better be honest with them because they know more than what you think they know.
That's right.
I promise you, they know more than what you think they know. I didn't know. I used to wonder how our girls would know music from the radio when we didn't listen to the radio.
Mm.
They knew, and they knew all the words.
Absolutely.
This is the world we're living in, and
Absolutely.
we can no longer be in a space where we are not we don't share these things and we don't talk about these things in a way that our children understand it because they understand. But the way the world is going to give it to them is going to give them a way that is not pleasing to God.
Correct. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
We got to give it to them the right way.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree.
I'll cut you off. Okay.
Well, time has been well spent.
Well spent.
Well spent, and y'all have dropped some major nuggets and gems and jewels for the folk watching, and hopefully, like you say, JK, that it's helping someone because we don't have enough of these kinds of conversations. And so again, I appreciate y'all for allowing us into your home and sharing in sickness and in health, and the grieving and the everything we talked about, the sexpectation. I put that caption down because that's just not something that we normally talk about. And the people were inboxing me and saying, oh my goodness, I'm coming because we know why. We know why, because it's in every marriage, or just about every marriage, the cycle, the up, the down, the seasonal, the doing it, the not doing it, right? And so it just needs to be talked about amongst others, like you're not alone, right? I think we all have gone through just those different changes in our marriages, and like how we were. I mean, we were at it the beginning. You'd be going and going and going, and then you just be waking up and saying good morning, as it gets as we get older and things change. And like you said, when you realize what you really married for, it's not just about that. And one thing you pointed out in this book, I like when you said Adam was fascinated with Eve. Like, this is bone of my, he stepped back and looked and said, this is bone of my bone. It was a different kind of fascination, like she came from me. Yeah. Right. And so that's what y'all were talking about when you get older and you're not really doing those things. You find other things that you be like, dang, I never noticed that. You're beautiful. You fascinated in other ways that just sex is not everything. So I appreciate y'all.
Very much so. I mean, sex is just like what JK alluded to. It's like it's like the Bible. Bible's in 3 dispensations. You have the patriarchal, Mosaic, you have the Christian age, or what have you. And so we live in now, and so you have to share what you did, like you said, what you did when you were 20 years, 20 years old, or however old you were, whatever. You have to share those experiences with your kids, whatever. And I think you guys, until you had done a great job with your kids, because if you don't share it with them, then the world is going to spill it right into their head and the wrong way, as far as that is concerned. So that's good stuff. Good stuff, man. We appreciate you guys.
We love y'all. Before we go, JK, so we got your Can I Get a Little Help, Please? Carol, if you want to jump in about T-Wek after he gets done, go right ahead. But JK, what did that say?
That's the self-published copy. What you have is the published copy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so
tell us what you have and tell us how to you have some other publications. So go ahead and take this time right quick before we close out to tell the people where they can get the book from and what else you wrote about.
Okay. Yeah. So, Can I Get a Little Help? I'm married. I'm single is on Amazon. And it's been on Amazon. If you want to get it, you can go order it. And I pray that it's a blessing to you. What we have now is the Christian Reach magazine. And we are tackling some courageous conversations, some courageous issues in that magazine. You can go to www.thechristianreach.com. It's a brotherhood magazine. We just released the second issue. There are several congregations who have subscribed to it. We're trying to get more congregations to subscribe to it, more individuals to subscribe to it. It's the kind of magazine that you can read. It's both online, digital, and hard copy. We are issues like this. Like one of the articles in the last issue is The Norm of Porn, written by Dr. Cleavon Matthews. There's an article in there about called Get That Rainbow, and it's the biblical perspective of the rainbow versus what we have now. Several courageous, compelling articles, and that's what we're going for. We're going after the things that we were never able to talk about in Bible class. Mm-hmm. But from a biblical perspective. And so that magazine, you can secure it on thechristianreach.com, sign up for it. And I'm just praying that it'll flourish and that it will flourish beyond this generation.
All right. Carol, you want to say something about TWEC or?
About what?
TWEC.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do a women's conference, and it just happened a couple of weeks ago. So you're too late this year, but it's coming back around in 2025. And you can go to the website at www.twec, T as in Tom, W, E as in egg, C as in Charlie, -inspire.org. So www.twec-inspire.org. We would love it's a conference for women and for girls, and so we would love to have you the third weekend in August of 2025. You can inbox me, Carol Burnett Hamilton, if you need more information, or J.K. Hamilton as well, if you want any more information on those things that we talked about.
And there's a Facebook page, the Christian Reach Facebook page, the Christian Reach YouTube page, the Christian Reach Instagram page, and the Christian Reach TikTok page.
Yeah.
All right. Come on, Christian Reach. Reach the Christians. All right. We love y'all. We love y'all. We are so grateful. We thank y'all. JK, really quick. We alwas kneel appeal. So something that the couples can work on for the week, right? Carol, if you get what from today, let's give them just a real quick soundbite of something that we can work on this week until we meet again. Just a request that we can make known to the couples just working in their marriages. What would you grab from today and tell the couples to work on, or the single people, even the single people?
So, like, if I had to do a call to action, I would say, sit your spouse down and ask them what do they like sexually. That's real simple. But what do you like?
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Some of y'all ain't asked that question in 15 years.
That part, exactly.
Or to make it trivial.
I'm like you run your hands through my hair. He ain't got no hair no more.
or to make it trivial, write it on notes and put it in a hat on paper, shake the hat up, and pick out one of those things. And the one who picks has to do that at least 3 times before the next week.
Wow.
So
I
wait,
like that.
we putting on the paper whatever we want done. Is that what you said, JK?
Right.
Put it in a hat, pick it up, pick out one thing.
One thing.
Right.
And you got to do it 3 times before we meet again.
Yep.
That's how you don't meet again for what? 2 weeks? Right? You meet 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. 2
So
weeks.
that's a long time to do 3 things.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Well,
it can be done.
He may want a back rub. Ain't nothing
Well,
wrong.
one thing and do it 3 times before the next week.
Okay.
One thing, right? 3 times. That's good.
That's
That's
real
good.
That's real good.
Ooh, boy. Okay.
All right, y'all. We love y'all. We're going to let everybody go. We love y'all. Thank you so much again. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us on the
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Love y'all.
Fred, I love you, Fred.
Yeah, you too.
I love you.
I love you, Carol. Bye.
Deuces.
Deuces.